All right, welcome to Monitoring the Power Platform Bootcamp Tenant Level Analytics. My name is Ali Yousefi.
And I'm Sam Danesis.
All right, nice to meet everybody. So we'll quickly cover our agenda for today. We will have the session objectives and introductions for both myself and Sam. We'll look at the tenant level analytics pane, the recently announced tenant level analytics export feature. We'll do a demo of connecting from the Azure Data Lake containers to a Power BI dashboard and report. And finally, we'll provide our contact information for any questions you may have going forward. So our session objectives for today. At the end of this session, you should be better able to turn on the tenant level analytics, set up the data export, and build a Power BI dashboard. So a little bit about me. My name is Ali Yousefi. I'm a senior customer engineer at Microsoft. My email address and LinkedIn contact information is on this screen here. You can see, you can contact me if you have any questions regarding this presentation here. Some certifications include Azure DevOps Engineer, Power Platform Architect, Azure Solution Architect, and Microsoft Certified Trainer.
Hi, my name is Sam Danesis. I'm also a senior customer engineer. I have a background in Dynamics 365 and Power Platform, developer and performance tuning experience, and I've been working with Microsoft for the past 10 years.
Excellent. So real quick, everyone, we do have a workshop that me and Sam both deliver, as well as other engineers on our team. It is a monitoring workshop. The name will be changing soon, but this is what we call an Activate workshop that allows Microsoft engineers to come work with you in your environment to help turn on what we call Dataverse monitoring. So if you're interested in this, please contact your Microsoft representative for additional information.
All right, so the first view we're going to be looking at is the tenant level analytics pane. So this is going to be like a single pane of glass showcasing Power App and Power Automate analytics at a tenant level. There is elevated permissions needed for this. Power Platform administrator and global admins. These reports will show you what you have access to, and that you can export and drill down into weekly, semi-monthly, and monthly data points. So the tenant level administrator has access to all environments. Environment level admins will only show data that they have access to. So only the environments that they have admin level access to. All right, how to turn this on and off. When you are in the Power Platform Admin Center, which I will refer to as PPAC from here on out, there is a gear in the right-hand corner to go to settings, and then in advanced settings, you can enable tenant analytics. There is a little bit of lag time once you turn this on for the data to start propagating. And this will, so about within 12 to 24 hours, you'll be able to see the tenant analytics drop down at the tenant level appear. And I will show that now. So on my screen here, I'm going to get to tenant level analytics. So once I hit PPAC, I go over here and open the analytics group, and I can hit Power Automate or Power Apps. And over here in the top right, we should see I can choose between environment level analytics and tenant level analytics. And at any time, if you want to turn this on or off, in Power Platform settings here, the setting at the very bottom to enable or disable the analytics.
All right, let's look at some Power Apps analytics. So the Power Apps analytics, some of the questions that you can help address once you turn this tenant level analytics feature on within the Power Platform Admin Center. So some of these questions that you can get addressed are: what are the total unique Canvas and model-driven app users across not only single environments, but across all environments within our tenant? What's the count of first-time users across Canvas and model-driven apps? And that's important as we look towards who new makers may be, as we want to start nurturing those new makers, making sure they know the best practices and so on. So having these metrics available to us is extremely important. How many apps exist in my tenants and environments, for instance? That's a nice one to have. As we look towards makers and activities, we obviously, again, want to know about the first-time makers, but who's our top makers? Who's folks that we know are really, you know, using our platform, can help evangelize our platform. You know, what are they, you know, who are they? What are they making? Are they making apps that are using premium and or standard connectors? And let me, you know, not only that, but let me filter this. So maybe I have concerns on, you know, what connector types are being used, what, you know, what tier is being used. Are they premium or standard? Well, we can quickly, you know, slice and dice this data to find out, you know, what apps are using what connectors. And then, you know, let's ask more about the apps. Again, you know, what connectors are using, what's our distribution of Canvas and model app across our organization? So the number of model apps we may have in a tenant, the number of Canvas apps we may have in a tenant, who owns these apps, who are they sharing those with? We can find all of this information within the Power Apps Analytics located in the PPAC. So let's go ahead and look at the Power Automate Analytics. Before we do that, here's just a quick screenshot of the app inventory. Once you turn this on, you'll see you'll get 3 tabs available: usage, maker activity, and app inventory. And there's an example of what the app inventory would look like with the slicers at the top. Okay, so we're going to now look at Power Automate Analytics. So some of the questions we can address for Power Automate flows: what are the unique flow users across tenant environments? What I think is extremely important, obviously, is successful versus failed runs, understanding how are we trending historically and currently. How many flows exist if we look towards inventory? Which environments had most unique users, and what's my top flows? Which flows are being touched the most across my tenant? Some of the questions we can address for flow makers: again, who's the first time makers, who's my top makers? The same things apply with apps. We want to ensure that we're nurturing the new makers, and we're promoting the folks who are the top makers and can help be our sort of champion group as we look to evangelize our platform. And finally, the inventory: again, the total number of flows across tenants, what connector tiers they're using, and what's the distribution across all my organizations. All right, and Sam.
I'm going to be going through some of the data extract, and then just a quick preview of what does get shown in these tabs. You know, these are canned reports, and, you know, Ollie said this earlier, slicing and dicing, right? If we see something or really want to dig in past what is given out of the box for drill down, we're going to want to export this data and create our own reports. So I'm going to click through here some of these tabs and what you get access to. But a lot of this would be, oh, I want to see, you know, who is also using all of the apps, all the launches, and the flow runs as well. And that data will be in the data extract. So the first thing I'm going to go over here is, let's go back to the slides, actually. Going back to the slides, and then I'll show the demo to extract. Because there's some important things to understand first. So you have to build an Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. And it's best to create this in the same region as your Power BI service, because there's multiple ways to read in this data. We're going to be demoing how to read it into Power BI desktop, but if you want to read it right into your Power BI service, that data lake will have to be in the same region as your Power BI tenant. Setting up this data export for the first time, it's important to have a higher level admin set this up. Some access has to be created, and application registrations are created in the back end when connecting this up for the first time. So you need one of the roles of Power Platform Service Admin, Dynamics 365 Admin, or to be a global admin. In addition, you must have an owner or contributor access to the storage account to access. So what we see here is in Power Platform, we can start exporting things into Data Lake, whether that be our data or analytics. And in your own Data Lake, you can, you know, access this how you want, put it in the charts and in the reports that you want, and then also tailor access to people that do not have admins accounts in Power Platform. So let's say a business group needs access. They are not going to be able to see it in PPAC unless they have an admin privilege. All right, so we covered how to turn it on and off. Tenant Analytics has to be on before you export data. So the export here, it's right under where you would see the analytics, and you would choose export to Data Lake. There is now another section for Power Automate as well, but you can see here we're going to choose Power Apps. We're going to double check that our tenant analytics is on. It is on. And then after that, you choose your storage account. So important note, one-time setup must be performed by your Azure AD admin to set this up for the first time. So to kind of walk through this right here, data export preview, you can see that in this tenant, there's going to be a few set up already. If I wanted to create a new data export, Power Apps or Power Automate, I would select this, hit next, and then I would choose the subscription I have access to, and then the resource group inside that has a Gen 2 data lake. So now this has already been set up, but I would hit create on this, and then within 24 hours, data would start coming over. Important note on that data itself, we're going to go take a quick look at that. So I am going to be opening up Azure Storage Explorer, and inside here, we have our Power Platform blob container inside our storage account that was created previously. When you first turn this on, any usage that flows over will be starting from the point that it's turned on forward. Inventory, so the inventory folders for Power Automate and Power Apps will get populated, but any usage will be from that point onward. So if we go and look in our Power Apps folder here, this is the different breakup. We capture our environments, all of the apps, connection references and connections, and then usage from the time the tenant analytics is turned on going forward. For Power Automate, same type of thing. Flows come over, the flow connection references and usage are populated as they get used.
Excellent. So as Sam showed, that's the data export. We get the sort of the logical directory there, the virtual directory that we can now begin to take these specific areas and sort of model these within Power BI, which will be the next section we get into. So these screenshots you see here actually were taken from Power BI, where we decided to start building relationships and making sense of the data that was delivered. Power BI won't necessarily know how to connect these, so you'll have to build these connections here. So this screenshot kind of shows how we were able to centralize everything on a Power Apps environment and then connect our flows and apps to the connections and references they used, as well as the usage. So we'll zoom in on each one of these here now. So we'll start with the first one we'll start with is the next slide here is Power Automate flows. So you can see in the middle there, we start with Power Apps environment. That's the centralized area we're starting from. So environments have many flows. That's the one to star you see there. Each flow can have many connection references. Those references can include things like Dataverse, SharePoint, OneDrive, as well as third-party services. As well as each flow itself has usage, right? When did it run? Was it successful or not? Who ran it? That kind of thing. Also in the environment, you'll see there's a Power Apps connection. So one environment can have many connections. Connections are established by users as they use our Power Apps and flows. And looking next at Power Apps, we could see that they still reference connections as well, right? So connections are used by both apps and flows. So when you go to your Maker portal, you'll see when you go to a connection, it'll show you, the apps and flows that are being used by that. And you'll now have that sort of single pane of glass in Power BI using this connection export here. So you don't necessarily have to go to the Maker portal for this or the Power Platform Admin Center for that. You can just bring this all into Power BI and not necessarily also have to have certain licensing and permissions to have access to those various portals. So Power Apps, again, one-to-many to apps, and they both have usage and connection references, just like in Flow here.
Alrighty, onto our Power BI demo. What I'm going to show here is we're going to launch a template that Ali and I created. It has been parameterized so that you just have to put in your storage account and all the relationships we talked about, all that folder structure. It'll read in from your storage account and populate some of the template we have going. So this also exists in a GitHub repository. Ali's monitoring the Power Platform, and a link to that will be in this PowerPoint. So this template has no data in it. It's first going to ask me for parameters. Keep that first parameter there. This is a sample file that gets pulled to read those JSON files. And I'm going to put in our storage account, Power Platform DL, load. And what this is going to do is it's going to see first if I have access to connect. There may be a pop-up coming up here that'll say, hey, you know, this is not necessarily private. Make sure you have the right access. Do you want to connect with organizational access? And then it's going to load all these queries. So while that's going back to Azure Storage Explorer, which is, oh, where'd they go? Right here. How we decided to read the data in was to start by each folder. So there's a query behind the scenes for reading in each folder, because what this gave us is it gave us a better template and a better table so that we didn't have all of this JSON just in one big query. So if you want to parameterize this further, that could be something that you can do to kind of, you know, slice on time range and not bring as much data in depending on how long you have been monitoring and exporting. So there'll be a query for each one of these, and then over in the Power Automate section, there'll be 3 queries for connection, reference, flows, and usage. We're gonna go back over here, see how it's going. The first time the template load does take a little bit of time. After that, there's not as much refreshing as needed. All right, here's that check. I'm just going to ignore the privacy level checks right now for these files, and I hit save so the data can load. And after all the data gets brought in, you will see a whole bunch of tabs will come down here that we've already, you know, decided things that we want to see. You know, environment lists, flow usage, Power App usage. You know, trying to identify things by tier, whether it's premium or standard. You know, another minute here. Alrighty, so now the report itself is starting to load. Oh. So on this first tab here, we have the environments. We have just a quick snapshot of how many apps are in the tenant, how many flows are in the tenant, and then we can see the different environments types and their URLs. All right, once this finishes, we can go to the next tab here. All right, Power Apps tab. This gives us a quick, you know, look by owner. Is it a model-driven app? Is it a classic Canvas app? Is it a custom page? What environment is it in? And here we can see connection references. I want to see all the connection references that might be using Dynamics or all the connection references that might be using Office 365 groups. And because of the relationships we created, you know, this filters over here. It shows us, you know, what environment they're in, who created it. And onwards. Power Automate Run, same kind of thing. We can look at a session ID, or you can say, hey, I want to look at this flow now, get connectors from environment and show me how many times it's run since we've been exporting the analytics. And some other pages where we're trying to kind of copy over what is in the out-of-the-box report. This should look kind of similar. The PPAC Power Apps usage report, being able to filter by environment name type, region, platform. Of course, you can take this template and customize it yourself if you wanted to see like tier in there, you could bring that information over. Here are all the queries. If we go up here to modeling, this is where we created our relationships. And if you want to add more data in here, this is a good starting point. Ali, did you have anything to add here?
Nope, I think this is great. I mean, one thing I would recommend is that this is a work in progress. This is a community effort. So the PBIX and PBIT files are all located in GitHub. We do have an issues tab. So if you do have requests for enhancements, or if you find bugs, please call those out. And if you are able to say fix a bug or want to say fork this and contribute, we highly recommend that. So, you know, what we're going to leave with is a bit of references. So these are the public documentation for the preview feature. So again, with preview features, these things may change. So just want to make sure that we call that out. When we did record this, this is the state of the feature as of March 3rd. Again, that may change, you know, when this does hit GA. That said, here's all your documentation. And the final reference we want to leave you with is the Power BI template, the open source template that Sam had demoed. That's found at aka.ms/WAC tenant level analytics report. And that is all I have for this. I just want to say thank you to everyone who made it through our demo and this new feature. I'm excited to see how you're going to be able to leveraging it. Please drop a communication to myself and or Sam to let us know, you know, what you know, the advantages you see of it. If there's any room for improvement, we're happy to take that to the product group. So thank you again. Sam, did you have any final thoughts?
Nope, just thank you for tuning in.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.